The house sat in silence under the heavy Iowa night, its windows dark, its doors locked, and its secrets buried deep within wooden walls. On June 10, 1912, in the quiet town of Villisca, something unspeakable had already happened. Inside that modest white home, 8 people lay still, their lives stolen in the dead of night. No neighbors heard screams. No witnesses came forward. And when the sun rose, it revealed one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in American history, the Villisca Axe Murders. This wasn't just a crime. It was a mystery that would haunt generations, twist the minds of investigators, and leave behind questions that still have no answers more than a century later. The house belonged to Josiah Moore, a respected businessman, his wife Sarah, and their 4 children. That Sunday night had been like any other. The family attended church, laughed with friends, and returned home with 2 young guests, Lena and Ina Stillinger, who were staying the night. Everything seemed normal, peaceful, safe. But sometime after midnight, someone entered the Moore home. The killer didn't rush. There were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the door may have been unlocked or opened willingly. What followed was methodical, calculated, and deeply disturbing. One by one, each victim was attacked while they slept. The weapon? An axe, found inside the home itself. The killer moved room to room, leaving no survivors. And yet, what makes this case even more terrifying isn't just what happened, but what was discovered afterward. When neighbors became concerned the next morning, they entered the house and found a scene that investigators would later struggle to explain. Every mirror in the home had been covered. Windows were draped. A strange ritualistic atmosphere hung in the air. Food sat uneaten in the kitchen. A lamp remained lit. The axe used in the crime had been cleaned and placed back where it belonged. It was as if the killer lingered, not in panic, but in control. There were no clear footprints leading away. No fingerprints that could identify a suspect. No confession. Just silence. Now pause for a second, because if you're finding this case as unsettling as it sounds, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Shadow Files, and share this video with someone who loves true crime mysteries. Because what we're about to dive into next only gets darker. Investigators quickly realized this was no ordinary crime. The level of precision suggested planning. But the lack of evidence pointed to something else entirely, something almost impossible. Over the years, multiple suspects emerged, each with their own disturbing connection to the case. One of the most infamous was William Mansfield, a man linked to similar axe murders across the country. Some believed he was a serial killer moving from town to town, leaving behind identical scenes of horror. But there was never enough evidence to charge him. Another suspect was Frank Fernando Jones, a powerful figure in Villisca. Rumors spread that he held a grudge against Josiah Moore over business dealings and personal matters. Some even claimed he hired someone to carry out the murders. But again, nothing could be proven. Then there was George Kelly, a traveling preacher whose behavior raised serious red flags. He had been in town during the murders, left abruptly, and later confessed to the crime, only to recant his statement shortly after. His confession was inconsistent, filled with contradictions, and ultimately dismissed. Despite intense questioning, George Kelly walked free. And the case went cold. But here's where things take an even stranger turn. Some investigators believed the killer didn't just come to kill, they came to stay. The condition of the house suggested the murderer spent hours inside after the crime. Curtains were drawn carefully. Personal belongings were rearranged. It wasn't chaos, it was deliberate. Why would someone do that? Was it to avoid being seen? To clean up? Or something far more disturbing? This brings us to the theories. The first theory is the most straightforward, a personal motive. Someone close to the Moore family, driven by revenge or jealousy, carried out the murders. This explains the lack of forced entry and the calm, controlled nature of the crime. But it doesn't explain the strange behavior afterward. The second theory suggests a traveling serial killer. At the time, several axe murders occurred across the Midwest with similar patterns: families attacked in their sleep, mirrors covered, and no witnesses. Could Villisca have been just one stop in a larger killing spree? If so, why did the killings suddenly stop? The third theory dives into psychological disturbance. Some experts believe the killer may have suffered from severe mental illness, leading to ritualistic behavior after the murders. Covering mirrors, arranging the scene, these could point to obsession, guilt, or delusion. But even that feels incomplete. And then there's the fourth theory, the one that refuses to go away. Paranormal involvement. Some believe the Villisca house itself is more than just a crime scene. Over the years, visitors have reported unexplained sounds, doors opening on their own, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. Paranormal investigators claim to have captured voices and movements that defy explanation. Is it possible that whatever happened that night left something behind? Or is it simply the weight of history playing tricks on the human mind? What makes this case so haunting isn't just the brutality, it's the absence of answers. No arrests. No closure. Just 8 lives lost in a town forever changed. The Villisca Axe Murder House still stands today, preserved as it was in 1912. Visitors walk through its halls, retracing the steps of that night, searching for something, anything, that might explain what happened. But the truth remains hidden. Think about that for a moment. A killer walked into a home, committed one of the most shocking crimes in American history, stayed long enough to leave behind eerie clues, and then vanished without a trace. No DNA. No definitive suspect. No justice. Before we close, take a second to ask yourself, what do you think really happened inside that house? Was it a calculated act of revenge? A roaming killer striking again? A mind unraveling in the darkness? Or something we simply don't understand? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. And if you're drawn to mysteries that refuse to be solved, make sure you're subscribed to Shadow Files. Because the next case might be even darker. Because sometimes, the scariest stories are the ones with no ending.